In the incredible words of Dr. Gene Bramall, it's only weird if you make it weird. So, Bloom, let's make it weird.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football. I'm living in a fantasy. Football. Got everybody mad at me. Football. Cause every game I had to win. Football. I gotta be a champion. Football. I'm living in a fantasy.
Oh, you gotta be a champion with the fantasy playoffs right around the corner. That's why we are here for you. It's part 1 of the Week 13 preview here on the Audible. Bloom, we don't have a lot of good games in this one. Seattle and 6 teams on bye. Really, NFL? Yep. Really? I gotta do this in Week 13? 6 teams on bye. Seriously. There's got to be a better way. Honestly, 2 buys would make sense. Anyway, Seattle, Dallas, Thursday night football. Seattle side of things. We need to see one who's healthy. And with Seattle, Bloom, that's kind of a question mark heading into this week at both the running back and wide receiver positions.
Yeah, Seattle, NFL schedule. Fire the schedule AI. Hire a new one with these buys. And 2 buys. See, let's start a campaign. Let's use our power for that.
Didn't they do that in like 93, 94, somewhere like that? It
happened once. I mean, if my brain is so foggy, if it didn't happen, it was certainly proposed and out there. But I'm proposing it again. I'm proposing that Seattle season is about to go in the tank.
Oh.
Dallas, San Francisco, and Philadelphia the next 3 weeks. Now, they do finish with Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Arizona. So you do the math. 9-8, maybe. I don't know. And like you said, they're banged up. Dallas, on the other hand, surging. When was the last time we saw a team like this that only basically plays blowouts? I mean, they did play a close game with the Philly and the Chargers on the road, but so this feels like a blowout, right? This feels like, it's hard to like Geno Smith, who's probably banged up. It's hard to like Zach Charbonnet, who, maybe he'll catch 7 or 8 passes. Don't think we're going to see Kenneth Walker. It's hard to like any of, this is where adding in Jackson Smith and Jigba makes you not really want to play Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, because you're splitting what meager passing game there will be 3 ways. Maybe there's going to be garbage time, and maybe because of 6 teams on bye, you're probably going to play Metcalf and Lockett in your typical 3 wide receiver leagues or leagues with flex plays. You're probably going to play them and hope for the best, but you're forecasting a floor game from this offense. And, this is a team, against these, we see in these, if you don't have the quarterback position solved, we see these brief periods where you feel like maybe we solved it or maybe we're going to be okay. And then you're like, no, we don't have one of the quarterbacks, so we're not really going anywhere.
Yeah, you're just kidding yourself, and, well, you're just kind of playing out the rest of the season. Dallas side, they're rolling, so lots of fantasy goodness, Bloom. And, with the Cowboys, it's who do you trust? Everybody?
Everybody, yeah.
I mean, everybody, you got a star on your helmet. You're not hesitating to start them. And even Brandon Cooks, Bloom, and rarely do I praise Brandon Cooks because he'll flash. He'll have like that 5 for 120 and a touchdown game, and then he'll do nothing the rest of the year. 3 for 33. Yeah, Brandon Cooks. Yeah, Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks. Yeah, Dallas. Well, maybe, Dallas. I mean, what's funny is we're going to talk about Dallas, but it's still really about San Francisco and Philadelphia, who they lost to, and they lost embarrassingly to San Francisco. And that's what it comes down to. And because they've lost those games, they're probably going to have to beat those teams on the road in the playoffs. So this game is going to be fun for fantasy football. It's going to be nice for Cowboys fans to feel good about their team, but does it really mean anything? Well, what it means for fantasy is, Tony Pollard's peaking. We're not asking questions about him in our lineup. Dak is an elite fantasy quarterback. Josh Allen's on bye this week. But if somebody came to me and said, I'm thinking about playing Dak over Mahomes, I'm thinking about playing Dak, well, yeah, Jalen Hurts against San Francisco. I mean, who had on their bingo card Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, passing game wizards, making the most exciting passing game in fantasy football this year? And Dallas does have a quarterback, right? Dak, yeah. Dak, and I think that's what's great about what Dak has done the last month or so is let's no more. Are there any questions? Is Dak elite? He's an elite quarterback. He's an elite fantasy quarterback. He's a quarterback that can be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and maybe that's the key, right? Maybe next time around against better teams, with this kind of passing game in the playoffs, they can do better. Like you said, Brandon Cooks in 6 teams on bye, he's probably in your lineup. And we're watching to see if Luke Schoonmaker's coming on. He's doing more in the box score. Jake Ferguson, who's still a fine tight end play. There's some good tight ends on bye this week. Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, TJ Hawkinson, Cole Kmet. So you might be going to the waiver wire for either of these Dallas tight ends, but it's still probably Jake Ferguson for now as he's getting the snap share. And yeah, Cease, with Dallas, it feels great. This team's going to have some crazy point differential, but that doesn't get you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that doesn't get you there. Can you do it in the postseason? Our mayor of football guys, our friend Joe Bryant, he always says things change pretty quickly around here. Jonathan Taylor, Indianapolis and Tennessee is next. I hope you still kept Zach Moss or were able to get him off the waiver wire. Bloom, we just did the waiver wire show yesterday.
Yep.
And then the news comes out about Jonathan Taylor needing the surgery. It's like, okay, Zach Moss goes to 100%, goes to spend it all. Indy, Tennessee, the Taylor news. Let's talk about it, baby.
Yeah. They're hoping 2 to 3 weeks, not putting him on IR. But again, remember, before Jonathan Taylor got up to speed, Zach Moss was among the league leaders in rushing. And I don't know if he's going to be able to catch Raheem Mostert, et cetera, Christian McCaffrey, but he could easily now get 1,000-yard season. See, so we pause to really talk about this because Zach Moss, we kind of liked him as a 3rd-round pick. I actually saw him as, even though he was built more like a tank, a versatile running back. And again, for Buffalo, it just didn't happen. What's going on with Devin Singletary too? Like, just didn't happen.
I know, and I like Singletary better than Moss, but at least in Buffalo, like, you could have used these guys. Both of them are good.
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask a question, like, what was Buffalo missing? Or was it just injuries? Or weren't they not patient enough? Because this Zach Moss does not resemble the Zach Moss that we've seen. Now, it resembles when you watched him back at Utah, like the back that he could become. And now for your fantasy team, he could be maybe not a league winner because if Jonathan Taylor's back in week 16, week 17, that complicates things, but he could get you to the playoffs or get you that bye. Minshew to Pittman. And again, we're also talking about, as of today, Gardner Minshew, playoff quarterback. A lot of Pittman, enough downs that he's in your lineup, at least as a flex play. And Jim Irsay, all that stuff aside, Cease, it looks like they got the quarterback choice in the draft right.
Yep.
They got the coach right. Finally, they got the Jonathan Taylor situation right. They're doing a lot of things right.
Is Frank Reich the only coach to be fired in season 2 years in a row?
Blech. Well,
what did Tennessee get right? What did they get right? Like, seriously. Hey, AJ Brown, nah, we don't need him. Derrick Henry's always right. The king, right? The king is here. Although that was Marquette King, who's awful. So, like, Derrick Henry, yeah, the king is still here. But did they get their quarterback? Nah. I love Chiggy and Dynasty more, but it's right. Okay, Tennessee, we've seen this before. It's like they keep showing up. And they're stuck in the past, and it's passing them by.
Yeah. And let's be fair and note that the Tannehill Titans did have a legitimate Super Bowl window, which is an accomplishment. Sure. I mean, it's an accomplishment of Mike Vrabel and company. John Robinson's not even with the team anymore. But now, like you said, Cease, what exactly are they building? Well, Levis is part of the foundation, and you can see him out there brick by brick building the foundation of his career. This game might ask him to play a little more out on the edge instead of safe, and that's okay. I mean, that's how you build a foundation, right? So we'll see. Maybe that makes Nuke Hopkins, again, with 6 teams on bye. I mean, that's the story I can tell that Nuke has a good game. It is Indianapolis, a team with a weak secondary. The first time around, these teams played earlier this year. Tyjae Spears had one of the best games he had all season, scored, and he could be a key here. There's part of the future. There's part of what they're building. And of course, Derrick Henry, who was held in check. But again, Derrick Henry, I think all of us, whether it's drafts or lineup setting, have had enough times of not doubting Derrick Henry and wishing we hadn't, that you give Derrick Henry. He's earned that, Cease. He's earned that benefit of the doubt at this point. And yeah, Tennessee, well, what they have right now is playing spoiler against a Colts team. Again, right now would be in the playoffs.
Yeah, right now would be in the playoffs. We need Bill Belichick to do us one favor this week, Bloom. Do you know what that is?
Oh, wow.
And Brandon Staley. Finish him. I don't think it's any way possible. It's Chargers and Patriots. Anything is possible. Kevin Garnett said that, right? So I don't know how you're working your prop bets this week, but Chargers, Patriots, and if the Patriots somehow, some way pulled the sword from the stone and beat these guys, could you please fire Brandon Staley? Please?
Yeah.
All these other coaches are already gone. So like, let's make that happen. Not rooting for anyone to lose their job, but for the love of God, you have a lot. I'm not going to say you have everything, Bloom, but the Chargers have so much and they do so little with it.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's talk Chargers Patriots. Now, maybe it's Brandon Staley saying, wait a second, we can get in that playoff chase and we can be what we were supposed to be last year. And for the couple years before that, it's like, all right, Chargers side first.
Yeah.
We trust in this week against the Patriots.
Yeah. See, by the way, I love that we're on the other side of Thanksgiving. And certainly if you're fantasy football hardcore, you know that there's a bit of fatigue. And by the time you get to week 13, some of your teams you're barely even tending. Some of them are the teams you're focusing on for the playoffs. But at this point in the season, as far as fantasy analysis, some of the stuff, there's not that much to talk about. Right. I mean, especially with all the backup quarterbacks we have in. So we can talk a little more football. And of course, because I'm an old man now, although you got me with the Valley Cap look, so I'm hanging with the young people today. Come on out to YouTube, see what you're missing. Anyway, I get nostalgic. I get nostalgic. And when I saw this matchup, Cease, I was reminded, for the Chargers fans that are out there, that the Patriots and Bill Belichick slayed, speaking of pull the sword from the stone, the Chargers team that should have won a Super Bowl. Remember that 2006 team? It was the first year that Rivers took over. They should have won a Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
That was a Super Bowl winning team.
Yep.
That was a Super Bowl winning team. And as a Steelers fan, I know the pain that the Patriots found ways to make plays and got flukes or calls or whatever, and the game broke just right so that they beat the Chargers. And then there was that epic game. I think that was right before we saw the epic game in Baton Rouge in the Chili's between Belichick and Peyton Manning. So we revisit this because, the Chargers are so far from that Super Bowl window now, and you wonder if they'll ever even get back. And I don't know. All there is right now is hope. And Justin Herbert, what's the next move? What's the next move for this franchise? I don't really know. You've used up the rookie contract. Austin Eckler. Cease, we're looking at a future without him, and you're looking at a future, a present with him in your lineup for fantasy. Is he's not 100%? I don't think he's been 100%.
No, he has not 100% all year. Bloom, do you know what the rumors are?
Ooh, I like
the rumors is the coach that's going to coach the Chargers is on the other side of the field this week.
Well, and that's going to be, we can, again, because it's week 13, we can start to stretch out a little bit.
Or is the answer Ben Johnson?
Well, Ben Johnson, if I could get Ben Johnson's ear, I would say, young man, pick your next job carefully. I mean, it's kind of like a quarterback like Eli Manning or something where you actually, if you're not subject to the draft, right, you can pick your spot. We're talking about Bryce Young and the Panthers, right? I mean, if you're Bryce Young right now and you could pick another team to go to than the Panthers, wouldn't you? Even if it was a team you wouldn't start right away, wouldn't you pick that, right? So please pick a good organization. I don't know if the Chargers are a good organization. I don't know. I'm not saying they're not, but we'll see. So, but for fantasy, you have Eckler. You're lowering expectations here. The passing game is interesting this week because you would think in the knee-jerk analysis we do, Bill Belichick's going to take away Keenan Allen. I mean, the one thing that's comfortable for this offense is throwing to Keenan Allen. So you try to take him away. Does that mean maybe a Jalen Guyton, maybe a Gerald Everett who dominated the targets at tight ends? If you have really deep to get a tight end off the waiver wire, throw a Hail Mary with Donald Parham. It's not Quentin Johnston who's hurt. He's out because he's hurt. And that's the truth, Ruth.
That is the truth. What's the truth with the Patriots? We're waiting. People are quoting Dredge Smalls in the chat room. Malik Cunningham, whatever. Ramondre Stevenson, whatever, Demario Douglas, whatever. I hope we don't see Mac Jones anymore. I don't root for people to lose their job except Mac Jones because he is a tool bag, allegedly.
Right. Yeah. Right. Wow. You remember whenever everybody, well, Chris Sims thought that Kyle Shanahan traded up for Mac Jones, and we that would be terrible. And then it was Trey Lance. We said that was good. Ended up being terrible. Still would have been terrible if it was Mac Jones. Probably wouldn't have been great if it was Justin Fields. Honestly, I think the Bears are at that fork in the road, wondering what they're going to do. Patriot. What can you say? What can you even say here, Cease?
Don't be embarrassed.
Like, well, I mean, for fantasy, you're going to ride Ramondre Stevenson. Demario Douglas, we're going to see if he's going to play. A lot of targets, probably PPR league use if you want. But it's kind of uncomfortable. It's kind of awkward being in the final scenes of the Bill Belichick Patriots. I mean, it's so much. Again, this is why I'm nostalgic. You're a generation has seen the Bill Belichick Patriots really be always in the main story of the NFL season, like always. And now this is how it ends. And like you said, the next thing you turn the page to is, well, of course, Belichick, whether it's his marriage to football or money or pride, there are reasons for him to not end it like this. Don't go out like this. What's the next chapter? And then for the Patriots, boy, I see. I'm a Penguins fan. Our friend Potstoner Degenerate Jason, he likes the hockey. As a Penguins fan,
he likes gambling on hockey.
Well, yeah, it's, same thing, kind of. The Penguins have the 3 players that have been together longer than any trio in NHL history, which is really impressive when you consider that includes like before the salary cap and before free agency and before any of that stuff, whenever teams basically owned players. Still, Sidney Crosby and Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin, Gino have been together longer than any trio in NHL history. And because of that, the Penguins have been in denial for like 3 or 4 years, continue to try to win now. And it's going to be bad for like 5 or 10 years, right? I think that's what's coming for the Patriots.
Yeah, I think that's what is coming as well. And well, it's kind of sad to see. It's awkward, as you mentioned. So we'll continue on. We've got one kind of good game in this preview. I apologize for this morning's preview because boy, there's not a ton of great games this week. Lions and Saints, Bloom. That is up next. The Lions side is more exciting. And after Thanksgiving, the debacle. How do they bounce back in this one? We know they've got the talent to do it. We know the defense is a concern. I think Anzalone's hurt, right? Banged up. So we'll talk about that because their defense is their Achilles. Sorry, they're the funnest story in the league, and Jared Goff doesn't know which direction the sun comes up. Goff is their version of Geno. There's a limitation. Look what Sean McVay did. Like, he's like, I can't win with that guy. I'm going to go get Matthew Stafford and I'm going to win. Ironically, flip-flopping here between the Rams and the Lions. So we can love the Lions. We can appreciate Lions fans, Bloom. I don't want to be a bummer for you, but it's like, you got Jared Goff and you have a defense that won't win a championship. So, but you can beat New Orleans.
Well, you hope. And that's the interesting thing about this game. This is a really important game for both of these teams. And you're right to highlight this as the game in the early window that you want to watch. Because now let's be clear first and foremost. Cease, we're talking about, are the Lions good enough to win a championship, and saying, no, they're not. That's positive. Oh, my. We're talking about the Detroit Lions and saying, nah, they're not a Super Bowl team. But we're at least entertaining it. We're entertaining it for a moment. We're not laughing at it. Wow, that's progress. They're going to make the playoffs barring an epic collapse. That's progress. But over the course of the season, they've raised expectations so much that we've recontextualized this and we're seeing, well, how could they be better? Or where are their limitations? Where are those Achilles heels? And well, one of them over the years was the Packers, right? Aaron Rodgers. And then, wow, you flipped it. You flipped it on them. The Lions got the upper hand, but not on Thanksgiving. And felt like Charlie Brown, right? Kind of felt like someone's pulling the football and you're ready to kick it. Yeah. So this is an important game for them, even though they're probably going to win the division. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it would be very Lions to somehow collapse. So Goff needs to show he's not a limiting factor with the turnovers. New Orleans defense is banged up here. For fantasy, there's not a lot here to talk about in that geez, first of all, there are 4 players in the Lions offense, 5 if you count Goff. He's on the borderline of an every week starting fantasy quarterback. Certainly indoor games. I know it's a road game, road home splits, but it's an indoor game too, and it's a banged up New Orleans offense. So Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta, St. Brown, and most of those guys are good plays too. They're not just like relevant fantasy players. Wow. Again, this is why Ben Johnson, pick your next job carefully, young man, because it's going to define your career possibly, and maybe even one more in this one because of no Marshawn Lattimore. They had something like 150-ish combined yards from Jamison Williams and a touchdown, and Khalif Raymond, who had 90 of those yards, and Josh Reynolds had a touchdown. So maybe it's a Jamison Williams. If you're looking at a what the heck flex this week, pick one of those outside receivers for the Lions against a banged up New Orleans defense, against a team you're going to lose this division to Desmond Ridder, really.
Yeah, really. Okay, Saints side, really. Nothing but Alvin Kamara. Like, what's the Saints take in this? A bunch of home cooking. All Alvin Kamara, who's going to get 7 catches. He's going to run the ball 17 times. Like, okay, as much Kamara as you can handle. There are others, including Taysom. Like, there's other ways. But if the Lions come out and put the hammer down, how can the Saints do that? It's like a 4-cylinder versus. Oh hell, there's a. I drove my buddy's Tesla because I'm a car guy, and electric cars. It's just stupid. Like, it doesn't even matter anymore. Because it's like 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. It's faster than a Corvette. It's faster than my Shelby, which pains me to say that, Bloom. I still love V8 horsepower. I still love that. Okay, so I'm never gonna shy away from that. But like, the Lions have they have the Ford. They have the souped up Ford, right? Ford family. The Saints are driving like a 83 Celica that's missing in 1 cylinder.
Keeping it on the road though. Keeping it. Hey,
well, those Celicas that drive forever, man. Corolla. Where's the Corolla at?
Right, exactly. Like, you bring Taysom Hill in, Cease, and it's a custom vehicle. It's like one of those vans that you can live in.
You can do anything. It's a VW van with the pop top camper, right?
Exactly. It's a little built-in stove.
How have you never owned one of those, Bloom, in your life and on Fish Tour? How have you never owned a VW van?
Another story for another time. I didn't get my driver's license until I was 24, so that's probably part of the story. I would have loved to have one, and every time I see one, which you only see down here in the South because of salt and everything like that,
all the rust,
eroding the body. I want to have one. I want to live in a van down by the river. Derek, we're down by the river here in New Orleans. Derek Carr is, on one hand, you love this Detroit matchup. For fantasy, this is perfect because you're going to have to soup up the offense to keep up with that V8. It's the vibration. Do the electric cars vibrate like a V8? I don't think so. And without Shaheed, without Michael Thomas, and maybe without Chris Olave, who was on his way to the biggest game of the season for him last week. So we'll see. But like you said, a lot of Alvin Kamara, enough Taysom Hill that, I don't know who your other tight end is, but Taysom Hill should be in a lot of lineups this week. And even Juwan Johnson, maybe Juwan Johnson, the other tight end. Maybe that's a tough choice. Because again, Derek Carr, I'll reference Derek Carr telling Juwan Johnson, study Julian Edelman's tape. And what that means is just easy routes, easy targets. Derek Carr loves that, and Juwan Johnson can provide that. So for tight end, you might get 7 catches for 40 yards or something like that. Detroit beat Atlanta 20-6. If you want to win the division, you got to flip some of those, right? You got to beat a team that your rival lost to. So this is it, New Orleans. This is the toughest game left on their schedule, and this is a game that they should treat like a do or die game.
Yeah, they should treat it, and we'll see how they do just that. It is the Audible Week 13 preview part 1. There is another, Bloom, by the way, because you mentioned the early games to watch. They moved Broncos and Texans to an early game.
That's right.
We won't get to it in this. We'll start off tomorrow's show with that. It'll be super bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for that one. But in the meantime, we want you to check out footballguys.com. We don't do any silly super chats. Pay me to put what you said on the screen. Like, no, just say something cool and interesting. I'll throw it up on the screen. And because we don't do that, the only thing we ask you, our tip jar, if you will, is, hey, check out footballguys.com. You want to sign up for our free daily newsletter? Sigmund and I write it with Joe Bryant every single day, hot and fresh, right to your inbox. Top NFL news directly to you. It is the Football Guys daily newsletter. It's available at footballguys.com. If you'd like to support the show, then please do a few things. Do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, never miss a vid, and then also subscribe to footballguys.com. So we appreciate you very much for considering us. We like you, and we love you. Hopefully you love us. 18 years going, baby. 18 years. Feels good, right? Feels good. Mm-hmm. Atlanta and the Jets, that feels less good. So let's keep powering through these, Bloom, and hopefully your internet doesn't freeze up. But Atlanta side first, did they gonna use Jonas Smith ever again? Is that gonna happen? Is that gonna be a thing? Like, wait a second, what? I thought when Ritter came back, we knew what was gonna happen. We have no idea with the Falcons.
Yeah.
Oh, that tricky Arthur Smith, who's still on the hot seat. I'm not saying he'll get fired before the end of the regular season, Bloom, because they got a chance. Yes, the Falcons have a chance, but damn it, Arthur, you got to do more than this.
Yeah, it's a question. And again, how patient are you with Arthur Smith? There's probably stuff behind the scenes we don't know about. Arthur Blank seems to me to be a big working relationship kind of guy. How's the working relationship? But again, if you're New Orleans, you're disappointed if you lose the division to Desmond Ridder. So does that mean you get fired if you don't win the division with Desmond Ridder? Yeah, I mean, and is it really on Arthur Smith that they don't have a better quarterback than Desmond Ridder? Is that Terry Fontenot? Is it collaboration? These guys came in together. Either way, this is a game that you're going to see what Atlanta has, because the Jets are always a tough out. And the Jets are going to get Desmond Ridder out of his comfort zone unless Atlanta controls this game, which is possible. We'll talk about the Jets side. So that's the question, right? Like, you could see a wide range of outcomes here, where if the Jets get a few breaks and get out to a lead and Desmond Ridder has to drop back and pass, problemos. But if they can just run the ball 35 times and keep Desmond Ridder on high percentage passes, throwing the ball like 20 times, then everything's okay. Of course, that's bad for everybody but Drake London. Drake London has earned our trust at this point. Arthur Smith is saying Kyle Pitts is still a big, big part of this offense, which I guess in Kyle Pitts speak, like, it was only when he was insisting how good Tyler Algier was, that was the foreshadowing that Bijan Robinson, because we really want him to say, Kyle Pitts, he hasn't earned it. He's not a big part of the offense. Maybe that's what we need, because I'm asking the question, are we in the acceptance phase of Kyle Pitts is kind of a bust? I mean, I'm not talking about fantasy even, I'm not talking about fantasy. I'm saying a player of his caliber, 3 years in, if he hasn't really started putting his impression on football games yet, I don't care about the coaches. The coaches can only do so much to get in the way of a great player. And if you're going in the top 5, you're supposed to be a great player.
Right.
So are we kind of in that acceptance phase? Or, maybe there'll be a second chapter where we find out that it was the coach, or it was something about the Atlanta program. It's another team. He's definitely not in your fantasy lineup. So watch him catch 7 for 100 and a touchdown, right? Because he's definitely not in our lineup here. And the Jets, I could see trying to attack the middle of the Jets defense in the passing game instead of trying to go out wide. And this is it. They control their destiny. They beat the Saints. They control their destiny. After this, they play the division again. Everybody in the division, Chicago and Indianapolis. So I get it. I mean, there's a case to be said for, if Arthur Smith doesn't win this division, is he the guy to guide them into the future?
Yeah, we shall see. Bloom, I almost mentally skipped the Jets.
Yeah.
But I forgot.
Oh, gosh.
We have to talk about the Jets. Was it Jimmy in the chat room? Who's starting Garrett Wilson? Somebody said they had to start Garrett Wilson. Oh, it was Mike. What's up, Mike?
Okay.
Look at Mike. Got to play G. Wilson. I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is a nightmare. I mean, again, it took a little while, the Zach Wilson chapter, but again, when they go get Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be different. It's going to be different this time. And then Aaron Rodgers tears the Achilles on the first series of the season for them. And maybe he'll be back, maybe he won't. But now the nightmare has fully come to fruition. I don't know what else to say. Yes, you're going to play Breece Hall. You're going to play Garrett Wilson, especially in weeks where 6 teams are on bye. But what I thought of when I was meditating on this Jets team on this Jets preview, because there's not a lot to say for fantasy, is unless you're the 49ers, quarterback decisions at the top of the draft are massive. They got 2 wrong, right, with Darnold and Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And it's put them in absolute hell, no matter what else they get right, no matter what else is good about this organization. If you pick at the top of the draft and you pick the wrong guy, you're setting your franchise back like 5 years.
Yep.
So
and
maybe
then you're
the Matt Baldwin theory,
overextending yourself for Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers.
Yeah, and maybe the Matt Baldwin theory comes in here, where it's like Matt Baldwin's been saying this forever. If something smart was said about football, there's like a 50% chance Matt Baldwin said it. Don't force the picks early in the draft. Don't force quarterback picks early. You don't have to pick a quarterback just because you need one and you're picking in the top 3 or top 5, or you have the ammo to move up into the top 5. You don't have to. What you have to do is, when you make that decision, you have to get it right.
You have to, and well, who do you trust? That becomes the question. Arizona and Pittsburgh. We'll get to who do you trust on the Steelers side in just a little bit, but let's talk about the Cardinals, Bloom, and how they could travel. And well, this has got me thinking about the Wizzengrim days.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the current, with Kyler Murray and company attacking the Steelers on Sunday.
Yeah, in the future, because talking about getting quarterback decisions right at the top of the draft, perfect segues, right? Did they get this choice right? And then did they compound the rightness of it or wrongness of it by extending him? And the big story again is going to be, is Kyler Murray Arizona's quarterback of the future, of the present? Is he some other team's quarterback of the present and the future? Is there another quarterback that's going to be Arizona's quarterback of the future, with one of those picks, or combining those picks to move up and get the quarterback they want? A lot of choices, and how Kyler Murray plays for the rest of the year is going to inform that, both on the Arizona side and other teams that might be interested in Kyler Murray. So what's interesting is that it's a new offense, and well, Kyler Murray is not looking very good in it. Nah, he doesn't look like he's meshing with it. It doesn't look smooth. Now, he just got back from ACL tear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but still. And arguably, if you look at the things that work with Josh Dobbs, they're not doing those things as much with Kyler Murray also. So, So this game's going to add to that record. That's the biggest football story here. For fantasy, again, 6 teams on bye. And hey, the Steelers could give Kyler Murray trouble, or on the other hand, because they gave Lamar Jackson trouble. So that's, Lamar Jackson's better than Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray also feels like the kind of quarterback that gives the Steelers fits,
Mm-hmm.
Just you can't just pin your ears back and go after him. And
well, he's not static.
Yeah,
he's jittery.
Well, and even Lamar Jackson is kind of linear. Even though, like Lamar Jackson, I think what they really do well with Lamar Jackson is they force him to make a decision, like in the first beat and a half of the play. You got to make a decision right away. And Kyler, he can be a beat slow and still escape and then really frustrate you. So this could be a huge Kyler Murray game. Again, a big range of outcomes here for this one. For James Conner, big range of outcomes, because if they fall behind, he's going to be placed in the old Steelers team. He's going to be small like he was last week, but he could be big if this team, again, they're traveling east for early game. It doesn't feel like a great Conner play. 6 teams on bye. You play him. You play Marquise Brown. How many 3rd and 14 conversions are going to go to Marquise Brown in this game? You're going to play Trey McBride, which, by the way, isn't that crazy? See, we're saying, oh, yeah, Trey McBride. Of course you're playing him. Who had that on their bingo card? Nobody. Well, Colorado State Rammies. Greg Dortch? What the heck flex if Michael Wilson doesn't play? I mean, as a Steelers fan, Cease, I can't help but think of these are the kinds of players, these are the kinds of issues that the Steelers defense has trouble with. So I see any of these guys, McBride, Dortch, or Marquise Brown, having a good afternoon against them. But I also see hope. I see as offense without Matt Canada.
Right. And what does that look like continuing on, Bloom? I'm afraid this is the type of game the Steelers lose. Hey, everything looks great. How'd they lose to Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But can it continue? Bloom, we're gathering data points here right before the fantasy playoffs. So we thank the Steelers. Thank Mike Tomlin. It was totally his decision. Wink. Totally his decision to get rid of Matt Canada. Totally to the most loyal guy in the league. But at least we get some data points before the fantasy playoffs because I have hope, Bloom, but I don't trust it yet. To quote, of course, our great friends at Public Enemy, can't trust it. Not yet. Is it Pat Freiermuth left and right and everywhere? Like, I hope so. The backfield is confounding. My grandmother, R.I.P. Mildred Lammey, she would always say corn fusing. So, yeah, it's a little corn fusing when we think about Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. I'm excited, but I'm tempering my expectations.
And that's fair. But, because this is a game that if they don't take another step from last week, 400 total yards, first time in 58 games. If they don't take another step against an Arizona defense that the Rams really just ran ragged, right? Matt Stafford had 4 passing touchdowns. Kyron Williams had over 200 total yards, even without Kupp or Nakua doing much of anything. The Cardinals defense was feeble. Cardinals defense surprised us for a little bit, just like the Lions defense, and then they went back to being a tomato can. So Kenny Pickett, 2-quarterback superflex. Yes, you're absolutely considering him. Probably with only 26 quarterbacks, you're playing him. And you're inclined to break ties in favor of your Steelers. And what's crazy, Cecil, I was just talking about Detroit as an offense that has 5 fantasy plays. And the Steelers might have 5 also, and without the quarterback, right? Warren and Harris are both in this week. You got to play both of them. Warren has big play upside. Harris is starting to get rolling now. Okay. Playing Pat Freiermuth, unless you have Travis Kelce, right? I mean, George Kittle, I guess. I mean, normally we say, hey, it could be a fluke. Don't read too much into it. But when it's that striking, the change of offensive coordinators, this offense actually looks like an NFL offense again. You're playing Pat Freiermuth, and it's Arizona who gave up so much through the air last week. You're probably playing George Pickens, who just needs 1 play, and Deontay Johnson, who had a touchdown that Mike Tomlin didn't challenge, or he would have had a solid week last week. But that's exactly why, Cease, if they don't have a good offensive week this week, now we're feeling like Charlie Brown, right? Now we're feeling like, oh, great. It was just that Cincinnati was depressed because they just lost Joe Burrow. It wasn't that the offense is actually good. So they, like you said, you feel like in your heart as a Steelers fan, this is the kind of game they underachieve and lose. But you hope, especially as a fantasy player, that this is a game that shows that the offense is going to be something and this team is going to be something.
I want to be somebody. Be somebody soon. I had a buddy of mine tell me that was a Who song. I was like, really? I just thought Wasp did it. Miami and Washington is the final game we're going to talk about here in part 1 of the Week 13 preview here on the Audible. Miami side first, so we get excited about this, Bloom, and we can think what might have been if, the Commanders hadn't had their issues and their troubles, and, just hope everyone is staying healthy enough for the Dolphins for them to push towards the postseason. And a rematch with Denver is coming up in the playoffs. I can see it happening. Wild card game. Denver travels to Miami, gets beat by 50. Maybe not.
Maybe not 50. Yeah. Miami, it's similar to our analysis on Dallas. Like, they should roll. They should look good. They should be good for fantasy. It's not going to tell us anything about what the destiny of this team is this year. But it is going to be fun. Jalen Waddle's coming on looking healthier. I guess for fantasy, the big question here is Devin Achane and whether he's going to play. And again, because it's Washington, if Achane's active, I'm going to try to find a way to get him on my lineup. If he's not, I'm going to try to find a way to get Jeff Wilson in my lineup. This should be Tommy DeVito just threw for 3 touchdowns against this defense. So, yeah, Washington. I don't even want to say you get to play spoiler like you said about not getting hurt. I just hope none of the Washington players get hurt. You're really just trying to gracefully move into the post Dan Snyder era, and it sounds like I'm not even sure. It's not a defensive line driven team. They probably don't have their quarterback. They probably don't have their head coach. I'm not even sure who their signature player is or how we win football games, but at least Dan Snyder is not at the helm.
Yeah, that's we can praise that. And on the Commander side, who will you be praising after this game on Sunday? One of the early games, of course. And
right.
Fantasy Jams are hoping, maybe they will be down by 30 and have to put the foot on the gas, which could mean Sam Howell filling the air with footballs and not caring, playing YOLO ball. Sounds about like Sam Howell.
Yeah, he's our favorite kind of purgatory quarterback, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's going to stay right out there on the razor's edge. So we'll see. What's interesting about this one too is with Ron Rivera probably out at the end of the season, and this team at the lowest point of their season, they just lost to the Giants and then got absolutely embarrassed on Thanksgiving by Dallas. This is the lowest point of their season. How do they respond? I hope from what I can tell, Ron Rivera is a good man and makes actual emotional, spiritual connections with his players, that they're going to come out and they're going to show something. And like you said, maybe that's Sam Howell as an upside play. If it's not, then maybe it's Curtis Samuel. Who's the struggle target? Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, or maybe the running backs. Because remember a few weeks back, they played Seattle really tough, and it was a ton of passing to Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson, who, by the way, has turned out to be a lot more useful receiver as a running back than anybody had in his scouting report, I think. Is it that? Because you've got Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, Devin Witherspoon and Reek Woolen. So maybe it's a game you project a lot of passing to the running backs. At least in that game, Sam Howell showed that while he's going to play YOLO ball, he's not stuck in one mode. I mean, he's going to be competitive. But when I saw this matchup cease, I had to reflect on one of the first real electrifying moments that as an 8-year-old, 7-year-old, really got the NFL like branded on me, on my soul. It was John Riggins, right? I mean,
yeah.
And sometimes football is just this simple. Let's block everybody except the smallest guy on their defense, and let's see if John Riggins can run him over. And guess what? Even at the end of his career, he can. And as a kid, I don't think I had experienced one of those Super Bowl moments where the psychic internet that we are all part of before there ever was such a thing called the internet just like glowed white whenever he broke into the open field. It's just an amazing moment for Washington. So let's go back and be nostalgic, because there's not much in the present.
Yeah, that is correct, sir. Where was that? Oh, K1, our guy K1, of course. Sleeper of the week.
Stop.
I still have some of that old audio from some of the old commercials that we cut. It's time for the ever popular Sleeper of the Week. And then I think What the Heck Flex part of that, or did that come from that?
That came first.
I don't know, because we're thinking about all the it was a happy accident, but think of all the great lines, like of course the great Paul Charchian with Sabotage Drop. Chat room was talking about that. Like, now is the time for Sabotage Drop. Now is the time. Getting ready for fantasy playoffs, man. You better Sabotage Drop.
Yeah.
You better jock block. You better be working that waiver wire. Why do you have any free agent bucks left heading into the fantasy playoffs? Like, spend it. Even if you don't think you need it, spend it.
Swing your sword. Rest in peace, Mike Leach. Yeah, yes, Mike Leach, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of great sayings.
Yeah. Speaking of great sayings, man, live, I am so far behind in the chat room. Anyway, appreciate you all. Look at Andy. Audible's my top podcast on Spotify. Top 1% of listeners.
Yeah.
Wow. Andy, holy cow. Thank you, Andy. We appreciate you as always. And we just like having fun talking about football and such. Bloom, it's been fun, man.
It is. And I continue to enjoy that. And, I'm soft in my old age, but I am always struck when we have these moments to fill here at the end of the show where we're not part of the agenda anymore, to just thank everybody, as we were talking about this before we came on the air, that our audience, you can say, like, thanks for subscribing, thanks for business supporting, and make sure we get paid so we can do this instead of having to do real work and so on, but really more than that, what our audience has done from us, and some of y'all have been with us from the beginning, is created a space of encouragement and love where we feel like we can just be ourselves. And that is an incredible gift. And that's a gift that you can give people every day, and in lots of small ways and lots of big ways. So I reflect on that every time we get to record this show and be with our people.
Yeah, and anytime we get to do that, we are happy. Hope to make you happy as well. And we appreciate each and every one of you. Do the YouTube things. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And even if you're in the chat room, please comment down below because it helps the YouTube algorithm and it puts our videos in front of other people that may not know about Football Guys or they may not know about the Audible. So please help us out, grow the channel. We appreciate you all for doing that. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show's at the Audible. We're saying thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please, as always, stay frosty.